That is a lovely picture background you have there, Brandon. Is that actually taken outside your place?
It's taken about 20 feet that direction.
Looks beautiful.
Maybe Brandon is actually sitting outside in the snow. That's my take on the picture.
It could happen.
The new home office outside in nature.
It's just terribly hard to type on a keyboard with mitts on. That's all.
You get fingerless. I've got some of those handy just for such an emergency. I've been told that the vest and the earmuff looking headphones really sell the picture.
Might be a hunter or something.
How's it going, everybody?
Excellent. How are you, Jason?
Lovely, lovely. Staying warm, mostly.
Staying alive.
Staying alive, very
Hashtag
important.
2022.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's a
Cue the
song about
song.
that.
About to break in the song here.
Give folks just a couple more minutes to join. I'll drop the link to the meeting notes in chat. Feel free to add your name, and there's an agenda being fleshed out there as well. What do we think? It looks like we have a good group here. Shall we get going?
Yeah, and I unpaused the recording right as everybody was saying Happy New Year, whatever. So
Excellent. Thank you, Vincent. Okay, I will kick us off here, but very excited to see everybody. This is the inaugural working group reference type meeting. So welcome everybody. Today, the agenda is mentioned in the meeting minutes there that I've just linked. So feel free to go take a look and please add your name. But what I'd like to do to start with is do some welcome and introductions. So today, I think the goal was, as I thought about it, and this is an open discussion, was just setting the stage here for the work that we're trying to achieve in this working group. And I thought it might be good just to go back to first principles and do some introductions and see what everybody's hopes and desires are for this working group. And then we can set up the different administrivia pieces of how we can communicate and move things going forward. And then I also threw kind of a fun group activity. Well, I think it's fun. I guess the proof's in the pudding. And I thought it would be fun to put together a mission statement as a group activity, just a couple of sentences. I always like to say, if you got on an elevator and somebody said, what are you trying to do with this thing? You could give a kind of a 2 or 3 sentences about what it is you're trying to achieve. And I think that's incredibly easy to say and difficult to do. So I thought we might be able to do that as well. But I think getting into it first, given that we've got 12 people, I don't know everybody here, and I think it would be fun just to level set and just say a little bit about yourself. Keep it brief because there are a fair few people here, and just what you're hoping to achieve in this working group and why you're here. So I'm going to set a little protocol up here, one that I've used in the past, where everybody raises their hands using the digital hand raising, which is under reactions, and you click raise hand. Can everybody see? And then if everybody raises their hands, when somebody passes you the ball to give your introduction, you lower your hand. So that way people know who's already given their introduction and who's left. So it also gets everybody knowing where the raise hand function is, because it's buried under the reaction. So if everybody can raise their hand digitally or physically, then we know who to pass. That sound okay? I'll get us kicked off just with a quick icebreaker. My name is Lachlan Evenson. I go by Lockie, Lachlan, hey you, hello mate. I work at Microsoft on our cloud native upstream team, where we work in open source communities on cloud native tech. Really excited to be here. I'm excited about all this work in the security space that's happening and what the role of container registries and OCI registries are in that. And I think I'm really excited to work with you all on fleshing out what reference types could be. So in that space, I will pass it to Josh and lower my hand.
Thank
That's
you,
probably-
Lockie.
You're
Hello?
welcome.
I can't see myself, but I'm assuming I'm here.
see you.
Hey, great. I'm Josh Jalitzky. Recently started at ChainGuard, and at ChainGuard, a lot of stuff with registries going on. So, but prior to this, was involved with OCI, getting distribution to 1.0, as well as some of the ORAS and artifact stuff. So I will pass it to Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon Mitchell here with Boxboat, an IBM company soon to be properly transitioned over to IBM. I'll also do some client-side registry tooling, and just interested in making sure that I'm kept up to date with what's going on with trying to make this stuff happen on the registry and whatever I can do to help out. And I'll go ahead and pass it over to Vincent.
Hey, Vincent, very excited to see reconciliation of references and otherwise, so we can move this forward and get kind of the generic feature out into this space for everybody that's looking forward to use it. Yeah. Jason, go for it.
All right, I'm lowering my hand before I forget. I'm Jason. I'm at Red Hat. I don't operate a registry. I don't work on Quay, but I am involved in a lot of tools that build images and push images and want to do that securely and well and efficiently and blah, blah, blah. So I'm very interested in the references work as it relates to how we attach SBOM signatures, anything, resumes, cat photos, whatever. And interested to work with all of you here to do that better. Let's go to Marina.
Hello, which video on? I'm Marina. I'm a PhD student at NYU. I work on TUF and a lot of kind of other projects related to secure software updates. And I'm here because I've been working on integrating TUF into the Notary V2 work, and specifically to get it working natively on registries. So yeah, I'm really interested in getting this to work and see if I can use this to make that effort work. And I will pass it to Steve.
Thanks. So yeah, Steve Lasker. I work at registries at Microsoft for customers and our services that we ship for customers, for customer software. And basically, I'm just hoping to minimize the number of services users have to care for managing and storing these types. So everything from SBOM signatures and results, Helm dependencies, and there's just a bunch of stuff that users are trying to distribute, and having to configure all of them in their VNet and security and everything, having consolidated has been something that makes a lot of sense. So with that, Tina.
Sure. Hi, I'm Tiana Gravi. I'm with a company called InfoSifter. We do a lot of consulting, just a lot of everything. Been in the container space for a long, long time. Started back when Docker was called .cloud. Yeah, I'm excited to see references moving forward. I would love to figure out what changes we need to make to image and distribution specs and get those moving forward. I'm excited. I'm actually going to pause and ask Derek, who is, I think, on the phone, so probably can't raise his hand. Derek, would you like to go next?
My audio is really bad right now, but yeah, I'm Derek. That's work on Containerd.
And he's gone.
I got it. It works on
And
Containerd. He does things. He
and he
knows
can't see
things.
whoever's going next, so we gotta pick someone.
If
Let's go
you
with
don't know
Vanessa.
who Derek is, you should go look him up because he's awesome. I'm going to pick John for him.
Hello, my name is John Johnson. I am not from Wisconsin. I work on registries at Google and have for many years. And also I work on many of the same container tools that Jason works on. And we'll continue to do that for the foreseeable future, I think. I will tag in Vanessa.
Hey everyone, I'm Vanessa Socket. Just forget about my last name. You'll never need to pronounce it again. It's awful. I'm a computer scientist at Lawrence Livermore National Lab. The stuff I do now is not super relevant to containers. I sort of work on binary analysis and stuff with ABI, but historically I've just been very involved with container stuff. So I was one of the original developers for the Singularity project. I ran my own container registry for about 5 years. It was not OCI, but you know, it worked. I've tended to be interested in OCI, and I guess after that, just kind of the weird artifact types. So like SIF, I've recently been playing with ORAS and SBOMs. And I don't really know the extent to which I'm going to be involved, but I wanted to come here because I feel like the communities that I represent, so academics, national labs, we don't really do a good job of being involved in these discussions. So like, I'm gonna try to do that. I really want, you know, my vision is that like you can work at a national lab and be more using kind of stuff that I think is more modern. So like not to harp on HPC, but there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in like the cloud native space that I think we could use too. Oh yeah, I have to choose someone. Okay, who's it gonna be? I guess it's just, I think I only see Brian. Are you in the Starship Enterprise? What's going on there?
Yeah, so I'm Brian. I work on the Starship Enterprise and engineering. I work at Microsoft doing container runtime stuff and also producing artifacts for like container images for AKS and what have you, and packages for distros to run container runtimes. All that fun stuff. Kind of hoping to get two things out of this. Mostly, one, I want to be able to experiment with new image formats that we can kind of upgrade to like gracefully. And on top of that, interested in stuff like SBOMs and all the stuff we have to do for all the artifacts we produce. So I think I'm the last person. So back to you. I forgot who was hosting.
Thanks, Brian. I'll pick it up. Appreciate it. That went surprisingly smooth. Thanks for doing the hands and participating in that. And it's great to, get a background on everybody and welcome again. And I'm thankful everybody's here and excited to work with you all. I thought it might be good just next I'll shoot the link out, but here is actually the proposal as it was checked into the main branch of the TOB repository in the OCI. So I think I'm just putting it out there so that everybody has a reference point. It's also in the meeting minutes so that you can go over it and take a look at the proposal as it stands today and is checked in. But obviously, working groups is a new concept inside the OCI. So I think we're working through this together and excited to see the outcomes. If anybody has any questions about that proposal, feel free. There's some communications channels, which I'm going to go through now. But on the administrivia pieces, I thought I would outline just some different communications channels and pieces that have been set up at the moment, and then go into a repository that's also been set up where we can document all these things, but I'll verbally go through them and they're in the meeting minutes as well. So as for communication channels, we have a Slack channel specifically under the OCI Slack. I'm just grabbing the name of it because it escapes me. I think it is WG-reference-types. Feel free to join that channel, and that's for any discussions or information pertinent to this working group and the operation of the working group. Instead of having a specific mailing list, if you've worked in the OCI, there is the dev mailing list and there's a few others. Chris Anachik from OCI had suggested that we use GitHub discussions for any long running mailing list type activity. And if you go to the specific repository, which is under open containers, I'll place a link in the chat. You should see in the middle there, the middle tab in the GitHub interface, there's a discussions tab, and you can go under there and start discussions as you would like on a mailing list for any long running things. So I don't know, has anybody used discussions before? Any positive, negative? I haven't personally used them.
It's more like Stack Overflow than a mailing list.
Yeah. So I think that's up for grabs, Tian, whether that's a good forum. I think it'll be interesting as what constitutes discussion over issues and comments on issues, but we'll give that a shot and provide feedback there. As for the cadence of this meeting, Amy, thank you very much for getting this together, has set it as a weekly meeting. That's up for grabs, whether it needs to be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. Let's just feel that out for now, but it is at this time weekly. And I know I did see in the doodle that this didn't work for many people. So I think as we get this up and running, there is opportunity to have a subsequent time for those folks who this time doesn't work for, and we can make amendments to that. So I guess we'll just lead as this is convenient or inconvenient to folks, please just bring that up and we can figure it out because it didn't work for everybody. And then finally, there is this repository under the open containers GitHub org called WG-reference-types. That is the home of any output work that we're going to do here. There is nothing in that at the moment. So I actually took a look around at some other working groups in the ecosystem, namely Kubernetes working groups and how they operate. And they actually place a lot of the information that I've gone through in a README to begin with. So I was thinking, you know, in the next week, I would put a PR in to actually just document the communication channels, the people involved when the meeting cadence is, so that it is discoverable at an organizational level. And then any, you know, work outputs, we can go in there as well. So I think that repository at the moment is completely empty and we need to build that out, but that is a working space that has been created for the output of this working group. So we need to make sure that we're putting everything there. At this point, I will pause. I've spoken a lot before. I had suggested a group activity in the agenda, but is there anything else that's burning people want to bring up right now that we should discuss?
Nope.
Okay, excellent. I think I will say, if you take a look in the proposal down, I think halfway down the proposal, there's been a lot of work in this space already. So if you're not familiar with anything that's happened already, I would like, you know, there's an opportunity to go and have a look at any prior art that's been brought to the table. And I think in the proposal, there is a good cross section of links, and we should get it updated if we're missing anything there, of different you know, ideas that have already been brought out. I wanted just that to set the stage here. And then obviously we can take that, all those things as input to, you know, how this working group works on things together as well. So the next thing was that I had put here was elevator pitch working group mission statement. So I thought it would be interesting to us all to come together and write, you know, in a simple statement, a paragraph or a couple of sentences, what we would like the charter or the mission of this working group to be, even though it's loosely defined in the proposal. But even as I read the proposal and I worked on the proposal, it's still really hard to explain what the goals are of this working group. And I thought it might be worth getting some more input into creating something that we all feel good about and have shared ownership over on what the goals are of this working group. So if somebody was to stumble across or look for this working group, they could look at it, read a couple of sentences and know exactly why it is that we meet and whether they want to participate and exactly what we're trying to achieve here. Has anybody done an exercise like this before or have any feelings good or bad about doing one of these? I thought it would be good just to break the ice between us all and do something like that. I've done it async in a
Sounds
Google
good.
Doc
Yep.
before, but not live. Now, I'm thinking about this a little. Does it make, I don't know, do we have breakout rooms here? Does it make sense to split us up into like 3 or 4 and have a couple of groups come back with, or should we try and work on it together and flesh it out? Any suggestions on that front? I've done both, but I don't mind either way. Do we have access to breakout rooms? I don't think so. Looking at the
I
interface.
think Vince and you might
absence-
have access to it.
In the absence of breakout rooms, we could just like take 3 minutes, write down what you think in one sentence it should be, see where people agree or disagree. I mean, it's possible we all completely agree and there will be no bike shedding. I don't anticipate that, but just at least getting an idea of like, what do you think we're doing here? Could be useful. I hate breakout rooms. I'm trying to stave off breakout rooms as much as I can.
And I don't know how to do them, so
Perfect.
I approve.
Okay, so how about we take let's call it 5 minutes. The goal of this 5 minutes is to write, a couple of sentences to a paragraph. And I put a little ideas there about, purpose and primary motivation. And you could also put, some deliverables as well. But individually, do you want to go and, well, how about everybody go and write up their idea of a mission statement? And no pressure. You can participate in this if you'd like. You can obviously spectate as well. That's just fine. And then we'll coalesce and try to get them into the meeting minutes doc at the end of this, and then see if we can't pare down and either agree on something real time or have it being starting point to agree on something asynchronously as well. Does that sound all right? Okay, it's 22 past the hour, so let's just do till, let's say, 1/2 past the hour, so we can sit here and type it out. Feel free to put it in the notes if you want that to be your scratch pad, or just put it somewhere. And then at the end of it, I will collect all these things in the notes and we'll go from there. Sound all right? Cool.
Thanks.
I know the silence will be awkward, but in many cultures, silence means you're giving things considerable thought and it's time to be respected. So let's think about silence like that. Okay, we are at time, a little over. How's everybody feel? Do they need a few more minutes or are they feeling good? If you've already finished up, I see a bunch in the notes. Feel free to read through them. Or do we want to press on? Press on? Okay, for the next part of this, does it make sense to go and review these things and see how they sit and bits that are missing? Actually, how about I just read through them, each individual read through them. And with no response at this point, I just want to hear everybody's feedback and see it out on what everybody's come up with, and then we can coalesce from there. Okay, so Steve, in the elevator pitch section of the notes here, we have Steve first. Steve, would you like to read yours first?
Yeah, sure. I wrote a short one. I was wondering if it was just a long run-on sentence, but the quick one was, the ability to store and distribute references of an artifact, enabling the promotion and lifecycle management of that graph of artifacts. And just the more elaborate version was just split out to a couple of sentences, because I did the ability to store and distribute references of an artifact as a graph of detachable objects, because that's turned out to be an important piece of it, which enables promotion of the complete or subset of the graph across cloud providers and registries. And then the graph enables artifact abstract, so you don't have to know about each one, copying and lifecycle management. The short or the longer one, shorter, longer elevator ride.
Thank you, Steve. Brandon.
Yeah, mine went kind of technical, but I just said creating a way for a DAG plus a cast to attach additional child content to an existing record in a registry. So kind of focusing on the very lowest level of, if we didn't have to attach external child content, we just modify the original thing, this would be easy. But I didn't want to get into what the content was or anything else like that.
Okay. Excellent. Thanks for sharing, Brandon. Tiernan?
Yeah, I guess mine was more focused on the concrete things I want to see come out of this instead of what the goal is of. At some point, we've got to make changes to the image and/or distribution spec. But otherwise, the gist of mine is a similar thought process.
Would you like to read it out, Tiernan? Or I can too.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Figuring out the minimal acceptable set of changes necessary on the image and distribution specifications to enable things that refer to / attach to other things. I love using the word things in a professional context because it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Things and stuff.
You have thing 1 and thing 2 in there.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. Josh?
Mine also had stuff in it. What we have created with OCI distribution is the World Wide Web without hyperlinks. We could not have search engines without hyperlinks. Search engines let us know things faster and more efficiently than we could do ourselves. So in essence, let's add hyperlinks to registries so that we can do cool stuff better.
It's even better than stuff. It's cool stuff.
Cool stuff better.
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool stuff. Love it. John?
My noun of choice is objects. So my goal is to define the semantics and a mechanism for describing relationships between objects, and then also a mechanism for querying those relationships. I guess implied here is OCI objects.
Okay. I'm really enjoying this. Thanks for all your creativity, everybody, so far. So I really enjoy going through these things and I think expressing, seeing everybody's how they're thinking about it and putting it out really helps us come together. So excited, love all the creativity here. So thanks for participating. I'm up next. Let's see which noun I chose. If you're Australian, it's probably going to be mate, because mate is our thing. So define the relationships between objects stored in an OCI registry for the emergent need for a centralized point to provide a response. So I feel like I'm a little cryptic in that, but that's what I came up with in the time that was allotted. Thank you. Marina.
Yeah, let's see. I have proposing a change to the OCI specification that allows artifacts to be discovered and used based on the relationship to other artifacts. So I kind of took it from the user side, I guess, rather than the registry side. But yeah, that's an idea.
Excellent, love it. Jason.
I like everyone else's more than I like mine. But mine was evolving OCI APIs to allow clients to express relationships between OCI resources, my noun is resources, have those stored in a registry and made available to other clients. Resources refer to other resources by digest, producing a DAG. I think that might be a little in the weeds of technical detail. I think specific use cases we know of are signatures, SBOMs, attestations, but we should be able to do anything that comes up in the future, remain flexible. And the output of this group is recommendations to OCI spec maintainers of minimal useful changes to enable these features.
Excellent, Jason. I just want to let you know you're not alone. I read yours, and I like yours better than mine. So just letting you know that I think we're probably all in a similar boat. While we're going through these, I'm just going to share what I'm thinking, and just maybe you're all thinking the same thing. What are the set of nouns, verbs, and things that everybody's expressing that are similar? And I kind of want to do, maybe word cloud is a little bit, but what are the things that all these ideas have in common? And what can we draw from them all and create a single statement? Because I do see a lot of relationships about whether it's the noun, the verb, child, relationship, registry. Just if you can start to distill those things, and maybe we just start to list them out. But before I go any further, I'll give everybody else an opportunity. Vincent.
Yeah, leveraging a container registry to push arbitrary content along with typed associations to other content by digest reference. So that's I'm saying, like you said, that if a human could chew this up and spit it back out, I think like your word cloud, this thing references this other thing, they're associated. Like they're typed, you can look them up, you can index them, whatever. Mike,
excellent.
you're the last one. Close.
Yeah, Mike.
Sure. My thought was drafting a set of OCI reference spec changes. I picked those, specifically to highlight that really the output needs to go into the OCI specs. If it doesn't, right, why are we here in OCI, right? To enable artifacts, I picked that word specifically because that's what we've been calling these things, for the last year and a half. So keeping that name for now. Including new types of artifacts. I think the new types is required because we have non-OCI image artifact types that we need to, proof out in this process. And also artifacts that refer to existing OCI images. Again, referencing URLs, that sort of thing, right? Linking these things together has become primarily important because we've got to extend the OCI images at a minimum. Out of this process. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Just putting the call out to anybody else who would like to share.
Me.
Go ahead, Vanessa.
Alrighty, so mine is kind of different. I feel like most people's are very technical on a specific thing. I tried to focus on starting with community needs. And I wrote it out because I'm a very verbose person, so I'll just read it. The reference types working group should identify and keep abreast of community needs for interacting with different kinds of artifacts in the context of a registry. Once use cases are identified, the working group should explore different avenues of approaching solutions. For example, an organization might always want to be able to retrieve a software bill of materials or SBOM at some regular interval for a container to check for vulnerabilities and send out an alert if anything is found. Example use cases include, but are not limited to, security scanning as noted above, signing artifacts, deploying registries for institution-specific artifacts, querying for metadata about artifacts, creating a graph of relationships between artifacts in a registry, creating scoped permissions or views to access some subset of content, understanding relationships between artifacts, and some kind of registry for the actual types and a formal process for submission. And probably outside of the scope of our sort of working group or the specification specifically, but outcomes that could be afforded by our work APIs and SDKs to make it really easy to do all of the above, templates for commonly used services to interact with registries, and community-friendly documentation and tutorials. And I think as we do work, one thing that I have a hard time some with is sort of always kind of checking back in with like the problem that I'm trying to solve. I'm working on something really technical and I get very stuck in the technical work because it's just really cool and I sort of drift away from the original problem I was trying to solve. So I think it's good to have like a list of our goals and the things we're trying to solve and always sort of check in with that list.
Yeah, Vanessa, excellent. I'm super impressed that you managed to do all that in 7 odd minutes. Makes me question my life choices. But that, I think that was a really good synopsis of the problem area and what we could try to do. Yeah, and that's great, Vanessa. Not having to go at you at all. I think that's fantastic. And I'd love for you, if you're comfortable, to share that in the meeting notes, because yeah, I think it's extremely valuable and we should have that somewhere. So at this point, you know, we've all laid out different ideas for a mission statement here. What I think would be, I'm going to make a proposal, but everybody else can chip in as well, is that we try and whittle it down to a couple of sentences or a paragraph. But before we do that, I was going to open the floor. What are the main themes we're hearing between all these things? And how could I just capture those specific words? Because I think what we can do is, given the time left, capture all the different nouns and verbs that are in here, put them down on paper, and then we can try and see if we can coalesce around a mission statement and at least, you know, have something to work off before we meet next. Does that sound reasonable? Any other proposals? We have about 7 or 8 minutes left. Jason, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. I think one thing that stuck out to me in a positive way about all of these things was that basically, I think one thing I think we all agree on, please throw something at me if you disagree, is that our goal is a set of recommendations to existing OCI API maintainers, and not, for example, new APIs, like a new top level thing aside, you know, on the level of image spec or on the level of distribution spec, et cetera, which I happen to agree with, but also I think is a good idea because we don't want a new thing, and our output is recommendations to existing groups to comment, bike shed, and change, but not to unilaterally, this group is not going to like produce the API spec. This group is going to produce a recommendation for the API spec owners to ratify, validate, throw tomatoes at. Is that more or less how people see it? That is a thread that I saw through everyone's answers to the elevator pitch. Just want to make sure that that is what I was hearing. Or
so you're saying, besides the technical, you know, the whatever of attaching attaching content in a registry, those are all kind of like end goal, and however we get there, the other side, like almost administrative thing, is that they're modifying the existing specs, and this is not like coming up with a new spec. Is that what you're saying? Or
I'm not being prescriptive about it. I'm trying to say I noticed a through line of people's elevator pitches that sounded like, in general, a place where we agreed was that our output is not a fully formed ratified spec because we have no power to ratify a spec, but that the output should be recommendations to the groups that can, to, hey, we sat in a room and talked about it for however many months or years. We came up with this output. Mm-hmm. We think this is good. Please agree or disagree. Yeah, I think that's a useful framing. I mean, I also want to talk about what we're trying to build, but I think narrowing the path to how do we get there will also help us. And I think that is a useful narrowing of that path.
Yeah, no, I think maintainers should be constantly, brought along in that, so that it's not
right.
But yeah, there's secondary conversations to be had there of like, That's, yeah, I think we're in agreement on that, because I think there's a lot of work to do in a non-blocking thread of this project regarding the other like existing specs and so forth. So I'm in agreement with that statement.
I can put my hand up.
I added just at the bottom of the doc here, I can share my screen if it would help, a kind of a word cloud from the above. And I'm starting just to take a pass through different pieces I'm seeing that are in everybody's responses. Let me just go ahead and see if I can share my screen. Let me know. Do you all see that? I don't know if it's the right size, but I was trying to grab specific things that were in everybody's output. So does everybody want to start just giving me words and I'll put them here, because I think, you know, the who, what, when, where, and why, the construct a paragraph is something that we could at least coalesce on and make some recommendations, or at least take this back and we can all individually do that. So are there any other words? I found object, artifact, content. What else did we have in here? Feel free to speak up if you used a different word. Thing. I know Tiernan said thing.
Not alone.
You're not alone. A
Thing, you
relationship.
gotta have stuff.
Stuff. Okay. There's no incorrect answer here.
I
So
think
we had
relationship.
Is registry too general? I feel like most of what we're talking about, that's like the central unit of thing that all this interactions are going to be happening with.
Okay. There was a lot of concepts around retrieval, querying, getting access to those relationships, not only defining, but getting them back. That is, what else do we have there?
API.
API, yep.
What about something around kind of permissions or scope? Is that going to be in the scope of our work?
I didn't see that stated. I might have missed it, unless you did it. I didn't read exactly through everything. Did somebody mention permissions or scope?
It does come up as the undertone of the cross repo conversations.
I think Vanessa's blurb was the only one that mentioned anything about scoping.
Scope permissions.
Okay, and okay, this one here, Vanessa. Okay. Yep.
Lockie, I like the word link for relationship. Linked.
Yep.
Yeah, linked stuff.
I know this one gets, one of the ones that starts the bike shedding, so we might as well start, but it's the other one is the lifecycle management aspect. You know, can somebody actually manage the graph as one thing? Is there enough information in the registry to be able to do that, as opposed to, you know, it's a client problem. The other one was separable objects, separable artifacts. So if I have multiple signatures, I can actually pull just the signature I want, and they're separable objects.
Okay. All right, given that we're at the top of the time, I think what I would put out the call to do is to take these words that we have in common, and for those who are interested in participating, see if you can retake, given the information you're given now, on the mission statement, and then present those back, and we will add that as an agenda item. But what I'd like to do is lock on a mission. And then Vanessa, I really want to review what you wrote, because I think like a more detailed synopsis that would go with the original proposal would be really nice too to have, where you dig into each of these components. So what my homework is going to be is to start to get a PR ready to lay down what the proposal says and leave space for a mission statement and maybe a more detailed synopsis. And then what I would also like to put a call out is for the next meeting, what are the building blocks of the conversation that we want to have to start kicking off the work process? But I really wanted to take some time with everybody here to make sure we're all in agreement for what this working group's setting out to do and lock that into the repository so that we're aligned there. So I think we're well on the way to that. And then we can start working on different aspects of this. So is there anything else? Is everybody okay with that? I can stop sharing because I can't see everyone.
Should our main communication channel be the Slack channel? So that's where we should expect to kind of see updates and keep abreast of things.
Yes, I think so for this stage until there's more, proposals and conversation that needs to happen where we could break out into that GitHub discussion. But I agree with what you said, Vanessa. So I will summarize and put the output of this meeting and next steps and actions on I like the cake reaction in Slack. And then, we'll see you all next week. I really appreciate everybody's participation today and making this a fruitful conversation and kicking off this working group. And feel free to reach out to me or anybody else if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week. And I look forward to continuing getting this off the ground.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
everybody.
Thanks, Lucky. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
That's it.
Bye. Thank you.